Hello again. Back with the third book review for that class. This time we are reviewing The Next Christians by Gabe Lyons. This is published by Doubleday, 2010, so pretty recent. This is actually a follow-up to the Gabe Lyons book that he co-authored called Unchristian, which looked at the state of Christianity in our current time, and looking at the youth and the most recent two generations and how they view Christianity and view the church. And this is actually a pretty hopeful follow-up, as Unchristian was kind of a downer. Kind of showed some of the issues facing the church, some of the problems that needed to be faced. This actually shows us maybe how to face those problems, how to proceed, how to move forward with the message of Christianity. So he starts off the book talking a little bit about Unchristian and his findings there, but then he also talks about really, again, the shift that has happened in our society from modernism to postmodernism, and what that means for Christianity. And he states in no uncertain terms that he believes Christian America, or Americanized Christianity, basically the denominational system that is in place in that manifestation of Christianity as we know it, it is on its way out. That's what he believes. He says Christian America is dead. And really what he's talking about is the trend that denominations membership is declining, organized church structures, these types of things are not attracting the numbers that they once did. But he also encourages us that we don't need to be necessarily discouraged about this. We just need to pay attention to what's going on. He cites some of the reasons for this. Again, if you've read the Unchristian book, you kind of know where he's coming from and the identifiers that he's using to come up with his claims. If you haven't read Unchristian, I really recommend you read it. It was a pretty good book, very eye-opening to a lot of things. But this one, some of the things he goes into more detail and describes and explains kind of why maybe we're having this shift in worldview and why it's causing people to leave the church, or at least to do Christianity differently. And he really breaks it down to Christians, he calls it being parodies of ourselves. We are a parody of ourselves. Christianity is no longer what it once was, what classical Christianity was. That's not what Christianity in America is. It's no longer a community. It's no longer people loving people and caring for people, trying to fix the problems in this world. Instead, it's become Christianity has become a task. It's become something we do, something we go to. Church is something we go to. It's not something we are. He really separates this type of mentality and what he sees in the major institutionalized churches. And he deals mainly with evangelicalism, but all denominations can fit into these in some way. He splits that into separatists and cultural Christianity. Separatists are those that try to separate themselves from the rest of society, their own way of doing things. They don't buy into any societal things whatsoever. They really make their own thing and separate themselves, try to distinguish themselves from the rest of society, the rest of the culture, and that is what to them Christianity is. It's something you have to be brought into by doing the right things, and there are things that the rest of the world does not do at all. The cultural Christians are those that try to take the culture around them and make it Christian, or Christian versions of that sort of thing. So Christian music, t-shirts that have brand names on them that have been remade into Christian slogans like Christ instead of Crest, or Jesus instead of Reese's, but using the same design logos and that sort of thing. He sees these as cultural Christians. And neither of these, in his mind and in Lyons' mind, is doing what Christianity is supposed to do. And so he sees a third option, and this is actually the option that he sees. Christians that have a postmodern worldview, these Christians that are no longer involved in an institutionalized, denominationalized church. He sees this third way as restorers. These are people that are working for the restoration of the world around them. They're working to fix the world. They're working to bring our broken world, the things we have to deal with, that brokenness, into a restoration, the restoration that's going to come at the end of time when Christ returns. They're working to bring that renewal, that recreation that is going to happen. They're working to restore that right now. So he calls these people restorers, and this is kind of the new paradigm he proposes for Christianity, the paradigm that's going to have to take effect if Christianity is going to continue to flourish. So in Gabe Lyons' mind, the problem is not Christianity itself. It's about the form that Christianity has taken, not the message. The message is great, the message is wonderful, the message is helpful, and is really what makes a difference. It's just how that message is being brought to the world is the issue. And so when he's talking about these restorers, these new Christians, these next Christians, he talks about a couple of different categories. When he describes them, he says they're provoked, not offended. So when the things of this world don't coincide with their Christian beliefs, they're not offended by those things. They understand that people are going to hold different views and are going to behave in a way that's not necessarily in agreement with what their behavior is. Instead, it provokes them to action, to engage in theological discussions, to engage in activities that could then bring about a recreated view, a restored view of the way maybe behavior is supposed to be. He calls them creators, not critics. They'd rather create something that is going to be helpful rather than just criticize the negative things around them. So instead of criticizing the way people use their money or criticize people for living outside their means, they will create a program to help people live within their means, or they will create a food pantry or clothing center to help people out that are down on their luck. He says they are called, not employed. They don't just see the things they do as their job. It's not just a way that they provide for themselves and for their family. They're actually called to do the things they do. They serve in all areas of their life. No matter what they're doing, they're serving their neighbor. They're called to that vocation. They are grounded, not distracted. This he basically talks about as embodying the faith. Everything they do, it's done with that Christian motivation. They do these things because that's what they are made to do. Christ has renewed them, given them a new heart, and so everything they do embodies that new spirit that they've been given, that new life. So that's kind of what that's about. Everything you do works towards this same Christ-centered life. They do so in community, not alone. Again, restoring Christianity to a community event, a whole life event, as opposed to just a place you go once a week, something program you're involved in, you come and go individually, kind of going away from a consumer idea of Christianity to more that community sharing aspect of community. They are countercultural, not relevant. So this means they don't just adapt the fads of society just to do so, to try to be relevant, to be on topic with things. Instead, they when there's a problem in culture, when there's something that's conflicting to them in culture, they will not use that part of culture, and they'll do things their own way that does fall in line with their values, with their moral system. And they don't just bow down to anything that comes their way just for the sake of doing it. So they are countercultural, not relevant. These are kind of the things that he described. Really what it comes down to is this new model, this new paradigm for Christianity. It takes the message, the solid foundation of Christianity, that Christ has died for all people, has forgiven them by that death, and they take that and make that a part of their lives that motivates everything else that they do. They are working towards the end of times, that restoration that will come, that recreation when Christ returns and God reestablishes the earth and reestablishes heaven. That's what they're working for. They're working to fix the broken world that we live in, the sinful, fallen world, to make it a foretaste of what's to come, as that's what they've been given in their salvation. That's what they seek to bring to the rest of the world. They are trying to restore things to what they are going to be and what they were at the beginning of creation before the fall. So a very full circle view of things, what they once were and what they will be again. We're trying to bring things back to that. We are restorers. That's what Christianity is about, according when Gabe Lyons describes the next Christians, what the new paradigm will be. So, from the Lutheran perspective, what can we take from this? What can we learn? What's beneficial? That sort of thing. Well, first and foremost, I know we're talking a lot about doing things. We're talking a lot about deeds, good works that are happening with the life. We need to understand that this is not a type of works righteousness. Instead, it is sanctified living. It is living out the Christian faith, by loving our neighbor. It is fulfilling our vocation to serve the world in all things because Christ has first served us. Because of Christ, we seek to heal the world. We make a difference because our faith makes a difference in our lives, a real difference in our lives. That's what this is about, which is actually kind of encouraging because, again, as Lutherans, we have this rich theological heritage. We have a lot of tools built into our theological system that we can really use to engage, and I think Lyons opens that up with this idea of, if restoration is kind of the paradigm that we're operating with, we've got some great things built into our theology for this. We believe that there will be a recreation, that God will reestablish the earth in the heavens. All of creation was redeemed by Christ, and that's what we're working towards in the end of days. And so that is now the paradigm that we bring out and we push forward in our theology. And again, this is not works righteousness. This is because we are justified, we now behave sanctified. We are now sanctified in our living. Because Christ died for us, we show that love to the rest of the world. That's really what this is about. So the theology we have, the theology of vocation, really becomes a key piece here, something we can help educate people and show how they can use this doctrine of vocation to really be a part of this body of Christ, helping to restore the world. Right as Martin Luther says in one of his Christmas or Christmas Eve services or sermons, I'm not exactly sure which, he compares the Christian, the person now living a Christian life, as Christ for their neighbor. We are, as Christians, we are Christ for our neighbor, and that's really what this restoration of Christianity is about. What the next Christians are all about is showing that love of Christ by acting as Christ, serving the world as Christ first served us. So Lutherans, read this book. It's definitely worth it. We can get some great tools, a great new paradigm with which to focus our theology and how to kind of focus our people and get in line to be able to really communicate the message of Christianity, that wonderful, saving, powerful message to this world as with the worldview that it currently has. We're shifting from a modern to a postmodern perspective, and because of that, we also need to change the way in which we communicate that wonderful message of Christ. We're not changing the message, we're simply changing the way in which we portray it. So, again, highly recommend this book. It's The Next Christians by Gabe Lyons. Again, a follow-up to Unchristian. Read them both. They're both wonderful. We can learn a lot from them. So, thank you to Gabe Lyons for the research that he did and for putting this book together. I found it very helpful. I hope that you all will too. And thanks. Bye.